Well, joining us now is outgoing Liberal Senator Hollie Hughes. Hollie, thank you so much for joining us. Aside from the regular post-election review into the campaign and a separate review into the policies, the Liberal Party is now conducting a broader review into the future of the party itself. Is another review the answer? Because it does seem like a lot of people can diagnose the flaws, but very few people are willing to implement the solutions.
Look, and I think that's true. I think there's been plenty of reviews in the past. I think the party has shifted and changed, and I think we need to realise as well that parties across the board, not just the Liberal Party, are less representative themselves of the people they seek to represent. So just by relying on a core membership base, you're not always reflecting the values of the communities that those membership branches are in. And that's just everyone will tell you that, whether it's a school P&C, whether it's any voluntary organisation or membership organisation, less and less people are becoming involved. So I think there does need to be a wholesale review to make sure that the people that are going forward as candidates are actually the people that are best able to articulate policy, to formulate policy, to win seats and reflect the communities they seek to represent, not necessarily just seek to represent narrow views presented by branch members. And that's going to make me super popular out there in branch member land. But
it's a bit of a new landscape too, isn't it? Because you've got the Teals, you've got the Greens, you've got the Labor Party. So the Liberal Party do need to work out how they have, particularly with ageing members of branches, how they now combat this almost an alliance formed against them.
Absolutely, but that's always been the case. It's never really been very different when you look at the landscape and how things have, where the Democrats would sort of line up more with the Labor Party in the past, and now they've got the Greens, and the Teals were a movement against Conservatives. And I think the Labor Party is silly to be complacent for the Teals not coming for them next. I think that's certainly on the cards and the agenda going forward. But the landscape has changed and we need to move with it. The values are timeless, but how they are reflected. If I hear once more that someone who is quite frankly, in some cases, are religious, quite extreme in their viewpoints, that makes them conservative. No, it doesn't. It doesn't actually make them right-wing or conservative. Just because someone claims to be a member of the right of the Liberal Party doesn't make them conservative. And, some of these things need to start being called out for what they are. And I think if there's not an ability at this point in time, and remember this is one of the lowest watermarks ever, to have a good, serious look, because, I've dodged a bullet. I absolutely am looking forward to the future because I don't think it's going to be a great place to be, certainly federally, for the next few years.
Well, you mentioned Liberal Party values. They're supposed to be the party of small business, and small business certainly needs help. Across New South Wales, small businesses are bracing for another hit to their bottom line, with power bills set to surge nearly $500 from July the 1st. Now, these are some of the biggest energy price increases in the country. Since Labor was elected, the average annual electricity bill for small and medium businesses has gone from about $6,000 to $8,000. It's a miracle that any businesses are surviving.
Well, I mean, it's extraordinary that some of them are able to keep their doors open, because we know that a lot of these businesses, the largest cost outside of wages is their electricity bill. And they're only going to continue to go up. And this is a multi-factor issue, and what we're seeing happening in the Middle East now is probably only going to add to that pressure. But when you have let coal-fired power become almost obsolete in some areas, when you have not kept up the maintenance to those coal-fired power stations, that still, whether anyone likes it or not, is still providing the cheapest form of reliable baseload power. And, people don't actually understand how the markets work, how the power gets fed in, what actually gets paid by not only the generators but also the transmission and the retailers. So they're all very different factors, but this seeking renewable only is only going to cost more and more and more money in the long run. And businesses, like for all the rest of it, elections have consequences, and unfortunately for businesses, they are paying the price of Labor's mismanagement of this transition.
And the whole private sector of the economy is really stalling under Labor. And we saw in the last 3 years, it was something like 80% of jobs growth was from non-market government sector. How sustainable is that in the long term?
It's not sustainable, and that is the reality. It is not sustainable at all. We need to see a boost in productivity. We need to see industrial relations law reform. We need to see a reduction in red tape, in green tape, in all of those things. I mean, if we're serious about a housing crisis, go for a drive up Parramatta Road. Go and have a look at Alexandria that falls into the city of Sydney, and where Clover Moore is absolutely inhibiting development to go ahead there. She thinks we still make Victor lawnmowers or something. I don't know. I mean, literally, you drive past these places now and they're data centres. There's no employment there. We need to be turning some of these factories that were factories are now either obsolete, unused or used as warehousing. They need to be turned into housing to start boosting local communities, local economies and improving small business, but also sort of fixing housing crisis. Because at the moment, I don't think anyone's serious about rectifying any of this stuff.
Just before we move on, just a quick question about the Liberal Party. A lot of people are asking me, when will we have an opposition in this country? The election was quite some time ago.
Yeah.
It seems like the Albanese government is just being given free rein at the moment to do as they please, while the Liberal Party has numbers of reviews. When do we get an opposition?
Well, they do have an opposition and they have a shadow ministry that was announced a week or so ago. And I've got to say, as shadow treasurer, I've seen Ted O'Brien out more than I saw some other of his colleagues in the previous term of opposition ever in the media. So I think there are some of them that are getting out there. There's obviously a big review process. I've reached out to the new shadow ministers that are taking over my portfolios so that we can organise a handover, because we had submitted 7 fully costed policies which disappeared into a vortex. So they're good policies. I'd still like to see them being pursued. But the other issue is Albanese, whilst he's off over here, the allocations for staff still haven't been made, and that is done by Albanese. So the reality is a lot of these officers, they don't even know who they can employ, who's still got their job, who doesn't have their job. I mean, my staff knew they were losing their job on the 30th of June, but a lot, I've got some excellent staff that other people are very interested in, but they can't move on them because they don't know what the allocation is. So these are sort of very boring mechanics, if you like. But the reality is voters aren't listening to us now. Yeah. No one wants to talk to, the Liberal Party now. They really need to do some soul searching. They need to talk to themselves. They actually need to have honest discussions to make sure that they can present a good opposition. Yeah. They don't need a good opposition tomorrow. No one's going to the polls for 3 years.
Yeah, and it's a good point. They should take the time to get things right. A Sydney gym is receiving a lot of backlash after banning boob tubes and short shorts. Camperdown Fitness says it's about creating a family-friendly space, but others say it's body shaming and the sexist policing of what women can wear in the gym, and they should be able to wear whatever they like. Hollie, is it sexist body shaming to ban the boob tube in the gym, by the way?
I want to know who's working out in a boob tube, because they're certainly not endowed as I personally am, and I don't know who would be working out in a boob tube. When I go to the gym, it needs to require holstering, shall we say, and I'm not quite a boob tube's ever up to that job. So I'm very jealous if you can wear a boob tube to the gym. All power to you, but it's been a while since I've been into a gym, so I dare not comment.
Well, I must say, Hollie, I have actually seen people at my gym down in Cronulla wearing a boob tube, and it's not practical.
It's really not.
Respect anyone that attempts it, but really.
You know, the other thing, just on a final note, anyone that wears nude leggings is just asking for trouble.
It's not a great look.
I'm going to stay right out of
James,
this
I just think you stay in the middle, stay where you are.
You guys continue later on. Hollie Hughes, thanks for joining us tonight.
Thanks, guys. Have a good day.
It's always a pleasure to have your company.